After 10 years of Mockery, wife's amazing transformation revealed as New York's beloved model. Danielle had always dreamed of the spotlight. The flashing cameras, the glamorous clothes, it was a world just a heartbeat away in bustling New York City. Yet here she was, a cashier in a quaint grocery store, wearing a smile that masked a heart full of doubts. Each customer she greeted was a reminder of a life she had wanted, a life the whispers of her peers tried to snuff out. "You? A model?" they'd laugh, their voices like daggers. After 10 long years of ridicule, that dream felt like a cruel joke. But in her modest home, there was Mark. A Vietnam War veteran, kind and steadfast, he believed in her when others turned their backs. He filled their small space with warmth, reassuring her of her worth. He knew the pain of judgment all too well and wore his battle scars like a badge of honor. One bright autumn morning, Danielle finally opened her heart to him. "What if I really tried to model, Mark? What if I could be known for something besides the jokes?" His gaze softened, and she could see the fire of belief igniting the depths of his soul. "You've got the spirit, Danielle. Let us show them how wrong they are." Life in their suburban town buzzed with gossip, but they forged ahead together. Saturday nights brought laughter and camaraderie, a bubble of joy against the world's harsh realities. But in the quiet moments, unspoken hopes hung in the air between them. What if her ambition wasn't just a fantasy? What if she could finally show everyone who she really was? Then, one day, a glimmer of hope appeared, a local modeling competition. The posters promised fame and validation, the very thing she yearned for. Heart-pounding, Danielle thought about signing up, feeling the intoxicating thrill of possibility. But just as quickly, doubt crept in. The whispers of disbelief still echoed in her mind. Could she honestly try? In the weeks that followed, she pushed herself physically and emotionally. Her transformation was not just skin deep, it shook her very foundation. With every mile jogged and every meal prepped, she unraveled layers of insecurity that had bound her for years. Yet it wasn't just the physical change, the mental struggle was deeper and harsher. The closer the competition loomed, the more toxic comments flooded in from those who once called her a friend. "What makes her think she can win?" they taunted, their words like ice shards piercing her heart. Would her spirit be strong enough to carry the weight of their scorn? As the day arrived, she stepped onto that stage, the lights glaring and the air charged with anticipation. Her heart raced as she faced familiar eyes, some smirked, while others looked on incredulously. In that moment, she wasn't just showcasing a new look. She was redefining beauty. The moment swirled around her, a mix of applause and shocked silence. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Danielle stood tall, her heart pounding not just with fear, but with an unsettling mix of hope and resilience. Could she break the chains of what others thought? The air thickened with unresolved tension as she stepped forward to claim her moment. Would they accept her for who she had become? Would they embrace the new Danielle? Or would their judgment still linger in the shadows? As the crowd held its breath, the journey toward a new life began, and the awaited answer was just a heartbeat away. The spotlight burned bright, and Danielle felt every pair of eyes on her. It should have terrified her, but instead, she felt a surge of power. This was her moment, her chance to stand up against a decade of doubt. As she turned and walked down the runway, she could feel the fabric of the gown gently hugging her transformed figure, a reminder of how far she had come. Each step echoed with newfound confidence. Backstage, She had been just a girl with a dream, now she was a woman claiming her destiny. The murmurs of disbelief began to fade as applause filled the air. Her heart raced with the sound, replacing fear with undeniable strength. It wasn't about fitting someone else's mold, it was about being who she truly was. As she reached the end of the stage, she paused, taking in the crowd. Faces flashed in the spotlight, a mix of awe, skepticism, and maybe even envy. She felt like an artist unveiling their masterpiece. Just as she turned to exit, a thought struck her: the competition was about much more than winning or losing. It was about proving to herself, and to her husband, that she was worthy of love and respect, no matter what had come before. Mark's warm smile appeared in her mind, his unwavering belief lighting a fire in her heart. He was the reason she pushed through the pain, the many sleepless nights, the hurtful comments. She pictured him cheering her on, fist raised. That image fueled her. Was it possible that she could become the embodiment of everything she had dreamed of, or was this just an illusion? But just as those thoughts began to swell in her mind, a chilling laugh pierced through the applause. A voice from the back, sharp and cruel, carried across the stage. "Look at her. Will she even make it past the preliminary rounds?" Another echoed, "That's what happens when you try to be something you're not." Danielle's heart sank for a moment. The shadows of doubt crept back in, momentarily overshadowing her hard-earned confidence. But with a deep breath, she remembered her journey, the late-night workouts, the tears, the small victories. Each moment of pain had brought her here. Anyone could judge, only she knew her path. Gathering herself, she took another step forward, this time with a fierce determination. "This is just the beginning," she whispered under her breath, channeling all that she had learned into her stance. Smoothing her dress, she flashed a radiant smile and struck a pose, daring the world to judge. The crowd inched closer, their collective breath suspended. A few applauded, while others still seemed skeptical. But in the back of her mind, she dared to dream again. What if she won? What if she could shut down every voice of hatred that had haunted her since childhood? The thought made her chest swell with pride. Yet, just as hope surged, another nagging question echoed: what if she failed? Suddenly, the director called for the contestants to step forward for judging. This was it. Her heart pounded as she felt a wave of vulnerability wash over her. She glanced around at the other competitors, their faces painted with ambition, yet she stood out not just for her new look but for the battle within her spirit. As they proceeded to present their stories, a familiar feeling tugged at her heart. Would she dare to share her truth? The tale of 10 years filled with mockery, resilience, and a heart that refused to quit. Or would she remain silent and risk losing the game before it truly began? In that moment, as the spotlight glimmered down on her, Danielle knew she had a choice. It was time to break the silence, time to unveil the truth that had driven her for so long. Would she find the courage to share her journey with the crowd? Would her words resonate with the skeptics and believers alike? As she opened her mouth to speak, the tension in the air thickened, anticipation crackling like electricity. What would come next could shift everything for her. This was only the beginning of a truth she was ready to embrace. Danielle took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the spotlight wrap around her like a cozy blanket, but underneath that comfort lay a pang of vulnerability. She glanced down at her hands, trembling slightly. This was it, the moment where she would either fly or fall. She could see the judge closest to her, a woman with sharp features and an expression that seemed to say she had seen it all. Danielle's heart raced. What are they thinking? She wondered, closing her eyes for just a second to block out her surroundings. The noise faded away, and she focused on that little flicker of hope igniting within her. "I can do this," she murmured to herself, opening her eyes to meet those of the judges. "I have to do this." "Danielle." The director called, bringing her back. The world around her snapped back into focus, the faces watching, the murmuring crowd, all there just for her. Without much time left, she had to decide. "I'm here to tell you about my journey," she said, finally finding her voice. It was shaky at first but grew steadier with each word. "For 10 long years, I believed I wasn't enough. I was mocked, pushed aside, told I would never amount to anything." She paused, feeling the weight of those words. Her heart fluttered as if it, too, wanted to join the flight she was now choosing. "I hated looking in mirrors because I thought I was looking at failures." The honesty in her declaration drew a noticeable change in the expressions around her. Some judges shifted in their seats, others leaned in closer. Maybe, just maybe, she could touch a few hearts. "I spent countless nights crying, wondering why I couldn't keep up with the world," she continued, her voice gaining more strength. "But I pushed myself, anyway. I got up every day, full of doubts but also filled with dreams. I believed there was a better version of me waiting to be unveiled." The murmurs faded as her story filled the space around her. Faces softened, curiosity replaced skepticism. She felt a connection brewing, and it propelled her forward. "I didn't just transform my appearance, I transformed my heart and mind. I fought through my insecurities. I wanted to be here today not to impress others, but to show everyone what a fierce spirit looks like." Each syllable carried the weight of her struggles, but also the sweet taste of triumph. "Here's the reality: I will face judgment no matter what. I will hear whispers. I will always have obstacles. But today I'm standing tall. I am no longer the girl who hides from her reflection." The applause began as a trickle and built into an eruption, hands clapping, voices supporting her. Danielle felt a rush of adrenaline surge through her. The audience was no longer just a group of watchers, they were her allies. As she finished, the light in their eyes shone brighter, and the buzz surrounding her felt electric. It was liberating. But just as she prepared to step back, eager to bask in this moment, a voice called out from the shadow of the crowd in a tone that sent a chill down her spine. "But does anyone really believe it?" The question sliced through the applause, and the warm atmosphere felt cold again. Doubt crept back, clawing at her insides just as she seemed to be soaring. The silence hung thick in the room, anticipation halted. She took a step forward, intent on holding her ground, ready to face whatever came next. With her truth out in the open, there was no walking back. The battle wasn't over. Could she prove her truth against the winds of disbelief? As she stood there, heart beating fast, the moment stretched out like a taut string ready to snap. Would she fight back with her spirit? Could she silence that lone voice and every other that would follow? The crowd awaited her next move, and so did she. The question lingered: would she let the moment pass, or fight with everything she had? Danielle felt her heart pound like a drum, the pulse echoing in her ears. The question hung in the air, a sharp challenge. The shadowy voice belonged to someone she couldn't see, but its weight pressed down on her, demanding a response. "Who are you to question me?" she thought, fiercely glancing around the audience, searching for the source. But she couldn't find the face behind the doubt that pierced her bubble of triumph. Instead, she focused on the judges, their scrutiny like a spotlight. "Does anyone really believe it?" The words haunted her, a dark cloud overshadowing her sunny moment. But deep down, a fire ignited. She couldn't let one voice, one doubter, put a damper on everything she had fought for. "I believe it," she said, voice steadying. "I believe in myself. I know who I am, and I know where I've come from. I've fought for every ounce of confidence I stand here with today." The more she spoke, the more power surged through her. She took a deep breath, the air grounding her as she locked eyes with the judges. Imagine waking up each day feeling like you're at the bottom of a mountain. Every step feels insurmountable, But you keep climbing because you can't risk going back down. You cling to hope like a lifeline. The audience shifted in their seats, anticipation swirling through the thick air, urging her to continue. I'm not just a model or a pretty face. I'm a woman with dreams. I've put in the hard work, countless hours of crying, self-doubt, and determination, she said, her voice rising. And I'm here to say that if I can rise from the ashes of negativity, then so can anyone. At that moment, a flicker of understanding glimmered in the eyes of the judges. She could see it. She was connecting with them, shedding light on her truth. Danielle took another step closer to the edge of the stage, her heart racing with passion. What I really want to show you is that we all have doubts, we all have struggles. But if you allow yourself to step into your truth, you become unbreakable. The whispers don't matter, what matters is how you see yourself. The crowd seemed to hold its breath as she continued. When I look in the mirror now, I don't see failure, I see power, resilience, and a woman who refuses to be anything less than herself. And I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to inspire a change. With that last word, the eruption of applause surprised her. It washed over her like waves, the energy invigorating, filling every crevice of self-doubt. But as she soaked in the support, her eyes turned back toward the shadows where that one voice had come from. Does it matter if everyone believes me? She wondered. What if the only belief I need is my own? Just as she was riding the high of connection, the director stood up, eyebrows raised, curiosity sparkling in his eyes. But how do you prove that belief? How do you make it real? His question echoed, challenging her anew. Could she really turn her newfound strength into something solid? Danielle's heart raced again, but this time not from fear, rather, from the thrill of the fight ahead. Could she transform her journey into a movement? Could she show not just the world, but also herself that she was more than enough? As she stood poised to answer, adrenaline coursing through her, she realized the journey was far from over. This moment was just the beginning. What would she say next? A promise, a plan, a declaration? The lights focused on her, the murmurs in the crowd eager, everyone waiting for her to share her next step. How would she turn this moment of vulnerability into an unshakable foundation? Would she take the leap into the unknown or falter again? In that charged silence, the next move was hers to make. And she could feel the world hanging on her answer. Danielle's mind raced, thoughts whirling like leaves in a storm. The weight of the director's question hung over her, mixing with the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. She could feel the electric energy in the room, every moment heavy with potential. This was it. This was her chance. With a steadying breath, she embraced the silence that surrounded her. How do I prove that belief? She echoed, feeling the tingle of determination rise within her. You start by living it every single day. The words resonated, not just for the audience but for herself. This was more than just a claim, it was a commitment. She had spent years grappling with self-doubt, each moment a struggle against the shadows that tried to envelop her. Today she wasn't just speaking to prove a point, she was speaking to rewrite her story. I want to be a voice for everyone who's been silenced, she declared, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. For those who don't fit the mold, those who are overlooked. I want to show them that it's possible to rise from the ashes of doubt and create something beautiful. As she spoke, she sensed the crowd lean in closer, captivated by her resolve. For a brief instant, the spotlight felt like a warm sun rather than a blinding light. It gave her comfort to feel the energy coming from those watching, hungry for inspiration, for a spark of hope. That's why I'm going to start a movement, one that encourages everyone to find and embrace their true selves, she continued, her pulse quickening with each word. I want workshops, open discussions, a space where vulnerability is not just welcomed but celebrated. The applause swelled again, louder this time, washing over her like a soothing balm, igniting a flicker of joyful tears in her eyes. But she needed something more than just applause. She needed action. I want to launch a series of community events, a platform where people can share their stories raw and real. I want models of all sizes, of all backgrounds, to grace the covers of magazines to redefine beauty. There it was. The vision crystallized before her. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Yes." Another chimed in, "We are with you." Their voices filled the air like music, lifting her higher. She smiled brightly, feeling a camaraderie she had yearned for. "And I ask all of you here today, are you willing to join me?" She called, heart pounding as she reached out with her words. She could see nods and hands raised slightly among the audience, support bubbling to the surface. But still, a part of her worried. Could she really create the wave she envisioned? In the back of the room, that shadowy figure still lingered. The doubt from before swirled around again, reminding her that not everyone would be in her corner. But instead of feeling crushed, she felt that doubt fuel her fire. To the naysayers, "I hope you understand, every word you throw at me has only made me stronger." As the crowd roared with approval, she held up her hands for silence, adding one final thought that echoed deeply within her. We all deserve to be seen, to be heard, and to step into our own light. Let us create that space together. The clamor surged again, applause erupting like the sound of thunder. Yet in the midst of celebration, a flicker of uncertainty resurfaced. What if this spark of enthusiasm faded? What if, when the lights dimmed and she returned to life beyond the stage, the world outside resisted change? Danielle stepped back, feeling the weight of what she'd just committed to. The cheers still echoed in her ears, but she knew she had to maintain momentum. This was a beginning, not an end. What would she do next? Would she have the strength to follow through and make her dream a reality? The excitement swelled inside her, but so did the gravity of the challenge she faced. A vision laid bare, but could she sustain it? With a final wave, she turned towards the exit, determination settling deep in her heart. She had ignited a spark, now she needed to fan the flames into a wildfire. What would the next steps be in this movement she was ready to lead? The lights dimmed as Danielle stepped off the stage, and suddenly, the bustling energy that had filled the auditorium faded to a faint whisper. She felt an odd mix of exhilaration and dread. The cheer of the crowd still echoed in her ears, but reality loomed large. Would this enthusiasm hold? Her heart raced as she navigated through the maze of people. Faces blurred past her, but she caught glimpses of smiles, hope, and a newfound determination reflected in their eyes. A woman pulled her aside, tears glistening on her cheeks. "Thank you," she said, voice cracking. "What you just said, it matters." And it did matter. In that moment, Danielle felt the weight of her words settle deeper within her. These weren't just ideas she'd thrown out into the air, they sparked visions in others' dreams waiting to unfurl like delicate petals. The thought made her smile, but even through that warmth, a shiver of anxiety gripped her. "Can I really do this?" she whispered, almost to herself. She stepped outside, the chilly breeze tugging at her hair as she walked to her car. The crisp air was a sharp contrast to the warmth left behind in the auditorium. Alone in her car, she stared at herself in the rearview mirror. The face looking back was familiar yet somewhat transformed, the reflection of a woman on the brink of change. As she drove home, her mind raced with possibilities. Ideas churned in her head like a rapid stream. Workshops, support groups, a website. Every thought laid a brick on the path ahead. But then, doubt crept in like an unwelcome visitor. What if she couldn't find the right people? What if the movement floundered before it even began? Pulling into her driveway, she killed the engine and sat in the silence for a moment. She needed a plan, something solid. But where to start? The enormity of the task intimidated her. Then, A flicker of clarity struck. She could reach out to her friends. There were so many individuals in her life with a passion for advocacy. Each of them could play a role, and together, they could build something powerful. She needed allies. That night, armed with her laptop and infinite coffee, she scoured social media, drafting messages and reaching out to her closest friends. A few hours later, she had lined up a small group of dedicated supporters eager to help. Who would we thought? She chuckled to herself. Her phone pinged with a response from Clara, an old college friend. "I'm in. Let us do this." With each confirmation she received, momentum began to gather like a storm. The initial flicker of uncertainty turned into a flicker of excitement. Yet still a nagging voice reminded her that not everyone would embrace this change. As she prepared for bed, doubt lingered, but resolve replaced it. "I owe it to everyone who feels unheard," Danielle whispered to the stillness of her room. The sun rose to greet the day, shadowed by the weight of new responsibilities. The next steps loomed like mountains. She reached out to a local venue to host her first workshop, nervously clicking send on the email. What would happen next? Would people show up? More importantly, would they feel safe enough to share their stories? Danielle closed her eyes, envisioning a room full of hopeful faces ready to embrace vulnerability. As she took a deep breath, anticipation prickled her nerves. She wondered, could this really turn into a movement? Or was it merely a beautiful dream that would fade with time? Tomorrow would tell her story, and every fiber of her being hoped it would be a tale worth telling. The morning light flooded Danielle's living room, illuminating the scattered remnants of her brainstorming session, sticky notes plastered with ideas, half-finished coffee mugs, and a notepad filled with frantic scribbles. Today was the day she would take her first big step. She glanced at the clock. As the minutes ticked away, her stomach twisted with a mix of excitement and fear. Her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Clara, "Ready for today? We are all here for you. Let us make this happen." The reassurance from her friend washed over her like a warm blanket. But the momentary comfort was quickly overshadowed by that familiar flutter of doubt. "Why did I think I could do this?" she muttered to herself, biting her lip. What if no one shows up? Determined to drown out the negative thoughts, Danielle took a few deep breaths and focused on her reflection in the hall mirror. She adjusted her blouse, smoothed her hair, and reminded herself of the purpose behind this gathering. It was more than just a workshop, it was a haven for those who felt alone, a chance for conversations that mattered. She finally stepped outside, the chill in the air a stark reminder that change often comes with discomfort. When she arrived at the venue, her heart raced as she surveyed the room, simple yet inviting. The soft colors, the circle of chairs, the low lighting, everything felt just right, but what if it wasn't enough? Clara was already there, her enthusiasm palpable as she set up a table with pamphlets and snacks. "Danielle, this is going to be amazing. Look at this space." Clara's excitement was contagious, and with each passing second, Danielle began to feel the weight lift slightly. As people began to filter in, first a couple of friends, then strangers who had heard about the workshop, Danielle's anxiety morphed into something else. She felt a pulse of energy reverberating through the room. There were smiles, laughter, and even nervous glances, all tangled together in the hope that united them. As she waited for everyone to settle, she could hear snippets of conversations, personal stories exchanged with practiced ease, but the underlying tension was palpable. Each person carried a story, a burden they were ready to share. When the clock struck the hour, Danielle took a deep breath and stepped forward, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions within. "Thank you for being here today," she began. "We are all together for a reason. Let us create a space where we can be open, where our voices matter." The murmurs of agreement filled the room, and she felt a small thrill of affirmation. Perhaps this was the moment she needed to ignite the fire she longed for. As they moved into the first activity, participants began to open up, revealing their vulnerabilities, an act of courage that struck a chord deep within Danielle. Everything felt surreal, yet right. Each laugh, each tear shared in that room fueled her resolve. Maybe I can do this, she thought, hope blooming in her chest. But just as she became immersed in the warmth of the shared stories, an unexpected voice cut through the atmosphere, loud and critical. "This is ridiculous. What do you all hope to achieve here?" The room fell silent. Danielle's heart pounded. She knew that voice well: doubt, judgment, the echoes of past mockeries threatening to seep back in. But this time, she was not alone. "How can we help each other?" Clara softly countered, her voice unwavering. "Isn't that what we're here for?" Danielle glanced around, the eyes filled with uncertainty now held a spark of defiance. This was her moment to affirm their fears, to embrace the doubt and turn it into strength. Could the voice of criticism become a catalyst rather than a blockade? As she prepared to respond, the question hung in the air, charged with all the possibilities that lay before her. Would they rise together or fall apart? The answer started to unravel right before her eyes, shaping the future of their movement. The tension in the room was thick, almost tangible. Danielle's heart raced, pounding against her ribcage as she faced the group. The critical voice echoed in her mind like a relentless drum, challenging her resolve. She felt a wave of energy course through her as hopeful glances mixed with fear, uncertainty swirling in the air. "Who says this is ridiculous?" She felt the words leap from her lips almost involuntarily. "And who says we can't achieve something meaningful together?" With each syllable, her voice grew stronger, fueled by the support surrounding her. "I've been where you are," Danielle continued, channeling her own doubts into encouragement. "I thought I was unworthy of being heard. But look around. We are a collective of voices, each of us holding a story of struggle or joy. That matters. I know it's challenging, but aren't we ready to explore our potential?" A murmur rippled through the crowd, some faces nodding, others still hesitant. Clara stepped closer, placing a supportive hand on Danielle's arm, her eyes radiating confidence. "Every single one of us has felt out of place at some point, but that is the beauty of this moment. Here, we're not just participants, we're a community." The critical voice hesitated, perhaps searching for a retort, but the collective energy was shifting. It was palpable. One by one, people began to share their thoughts. "I want to tell my story," said a young girl with tears forming in her eyes, her voice barely above a whisper but growing stronger. "I haven't spoken about my struggles at all," chimed in an elderly man, his hands trembling slightly as he straightened in his chair. "For years, I felt like my past defined my present." Danielle smiled, her heart swelling with pride. This was what she had envisioned, a sacred space where vulnerability was the bridge to connection. The doubt that had threatened to overshadow her vision now felt like it had transformed into something cohesive and whole. The atmosphere lifted. People began to exchange stories of loss, of hope, of rediscovery. Each tale opened up more hearts, every shared experience drawing them closer together. The laughter mingled with tears as they spoke of their insecurities and triumphs, all moving forward hand in hand. "Look at what we're doing," Clara whispered to Danielle, pride evident in her voice. "You've lit the spark." But just then, that same critical voice rang out again, this time softer but no less jarring. "How long do you all think this will last? It's easy to talk about change, it's a lot harder to actually change." Danielle's stomach clenched. The subtle accusation felt like a dark veil threatening the warmth that had filled the room. She searched the faces of her newfound community, looking for the spark of transformation she had seen moments ago. "Change doesn't happen overnight," she countered, her heart steadying. It's taken years to feel ready for this moment, and it will take time to feel our best selves. But together, we can hold each other accountable, provide support on the hard days, and celebrate the little victories. A brave woman spoke up, her voice cracking slightly. I'm not here to find instant solutions. I'm here to learn and grow, to find hope through connection. That is enough for me. Danielle could feel it, the shift in energy, the bond forming in the room like a protective shield against doubt. They were no longer just strangers sharing space, they were becoming allies. They moved to the next activity, a circle of sharing, each person taking turns to speak while others listened intently. It was raw and real. And just as Danielle felt the warmth of that deepening connection, she realized that the critical voice still loomed in the background, waiting to disrupt again. But she also understood that she now had the strength, along with her community's strength, to confront it head-on. Let us see how far we can take this, she thought, determination surging through her. Would their newfound resolve hold up against the challenges they would face together? Could this bond withstand the test of time? As a new round of stories filled the air, Danielle felt a powerful certainty wash over her. They had the power to create change, to turn hope into reality. With these thoughts in mind, she peered into the audience, ready to invite someone to share their journey next, unaware of the deeper twists awaiting them in their collective path. Would they unravel the real barriers holding them back, or would the resurgence of doubt shatter their momentum? As the last word slipped from Danielle's lips, a young man stood, his expression a mix of bravery and trepidation. I never fit in anywhere, he began, his voice shaking. Growing up, I was always the odd one out. The kid who couldn't throw a football. The kid who liked to paint. His words hung in the air, raw and unprotected. The room fell silent, all eyes on him, pulling him into their collective embrace. But art was my refuge. It was how I communicated where words wouldn't. He paused, and in that silence, the critical voice inside Danielle's mind came to life again. Will this story matter? Will he feel what he wants to feel? But she brushed it aside. This was what they needed. Each story mattered, however fragile or bold. With a deep breath, the young man continued, years of mockery, years of feeling invisible. But when I paint, I feel seen. Like a new me emerges. As he spoke, the tension seeped away, replaced by an energy that crackled with understanding. Everyone listened intently. It wasn't just his past, it was their past too. They were all fighting their battles, in their own ways. A woman across the circle nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. I never had the courage to embrace who I am, she added, her voice rising with newfound hope. I've spent my life trying to fit into boxes that were never meant for me. Until now, I had no idea how much I needed this. A murmur of agreement rippled through the group. The connection deepened, as if every sentiment shared wove a tapestry of resilience. Each story was a stitch, binding them closer, reinforcing the strength of their gathering. Danielle felt the warmth of validation, but a part of her was still shadowed by the critical voice. It whispered that this moment, this shared strength, might crumble. With each heartfelt story, the fear crept closer, but she chose to focus on the humanity filling the room. When the young man finished, the room erupted into applause. His transformation was palpable, not only for him but for everyone witnessing it. They cheered, relishing in the magic of his journey, a reminder they were all capable of such growth. As the stories continued, there were jokes, laughter, and firm nods of recognition. It was a whirlwind of emotions, a cycling storm of fragility and ferocity. They were weaving the fabric of something beautiful, a space where judgment faded and acceptance bloomed. But as each voice lifted higher, the critical voice returned, quiet yet insistent. But can you keep this up? What happens when the stories fade? Danielle's heart raced again. She felt the weight. Might they really allow doubt to tsunamify joy? She had to act, to steer this energy away from self-doubt. Let us make a promise, she declared, breaking from the moment and standing taller. A promise to meet regularly, to support each other, to make this community lasting. What do you say? Eyes sparkled and heads turned. The seed of something greater had been planted, but would it take root? A chorus of agreement erupted, voices intertwining in support. Excitement buzzed in the air, yet a lingering feeling tugged at the back of Danielle's mind. This was just the beginning. They were yet to confront the real barrier somewhere in the shadows. The past still loomed large. Together, we can face anything, she thought, but doubts held their ground like an uninvited guest. They needed more than words, they needed action. With determination reignited, she turned to the group again. Let us talk about our next steps. How can we commit to this journey? Just then, the door creaked, drawing everyone's attention. A stranger stood in the threshold, their eyes scanning the room. Everyone paused, silence enveloping them like a cocoon. Who was this newcomer? Did they come to be part of the circle, or would they carry the weight of the critical voice anew? Danielle held her breath, caught between hope and uncertainty. What would this stranger bring to their collective journey? The newcomer stepped forward, hesitantly at first, eyes darting around the circle. A young woman with bright red hair framed by a soft blue beanie, she wore an uncertain smile that still held a hint of defiance. "Ah, hi," she said, her voice small but steady. "I heard everything from outside. Can I join?" Danielle felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Absolutely," she exclaimed, beckoning her closer. "This space is for everyone. What is your name?" The woman took a deep breath. "My name is Mia. And I've been looking for a community like this. I just didn't know where to find it." As Mia settled into the circle, Danielle felt an undeniable shift. The energy that coursed through the group seemed to expand, reaching out to include her, wrapping around Mia like a hug, pulling her into their collective warmth. "What brings you here today?" Clara asked, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Mia hesitated, her fingers fidgeting with her beanie. "I've always felt like the odd one out. My friends have always been together, supporting each other, while I've been left behind. I've been really struggling to make connections. I thought maybe this is where I could find understanding." Danielle recognized the same longing for acceptance that had echoed in her own heart just days before. "We are all a work in progress," she said, her voice resolute. "And that is why we're here to support each other's journeys. You're not alone, Mia." A soft murmur of agreement flowed through the group, and smiles returned to everyone's faces, like petals opening to the sun. "Let us do this together," Danielle said. "Let us make sure no one feels like they don't belong. We're in this as a team, and every voice matters." As the session continued, Mia shared her story of feeling overlooked, her struggles of searching for purpose, and the moments that had kept her from believing she could find her tribe. With each tale mingling with those before it, the group treated her words with tender care. They listened with open hearts, grateful for the courage it took to expose oneself so freely. In that moment, the critical voice faded into the background, its power dissipated by the strength of community building. One by one, the participants began to share ways they could each contribute to a collective future. Ideas bubbled forth that would help transform their gathered hopes into actionable plans. "We should meet weekly and keep this momentum going," suggested Clara, excitement dancing in her eyes. "Maybe even create an online group to share our goals and progress." "Yes," chimed in another participant. "And we could volunteer together. Help those who are struggling in our community." As voices filled the room with sheer enthusiasm, Danielle felt her heart swell. This was the moment she had hoped for, the real beginnings of a movement ready to spring to life. They were ready, willing to hold each other accountable, and open to the future that awaited them. The hours slipped away unnoticed as they planned, their laughter bubbling and weaving through the air like a joyful melody. They were powered by a shared purpose that felt unshakable, and for the first time, Danielle felt the weight of doubt lifting. Finally, as the gathering began to wind down, she stepped forward again, her heart racing with determination. "Before we finish up," she announced, "let us each take one piece of the vision we've created today and turn it into our personal commitment. What can we do this week to support ourselves and each other?" One by one, they went around, sharing intentions and promises that blended seamlessly into a shared chorus of belief and hope. "I will reach out to someone who needs a friend," Mia declared, her voice much steadier now. "To make sure no one feels alone. I will share my story on our group chat," added another voice, filled with courage. "It's time to stop hiding." Danielle smiled widely, glancing at Clara, who mirrored her happiness. This was just the beginning. Each goal woven together was a fine thread, starting to form a beautiful tapestry of unity. Together, they united under a shimmering sky of promise, setting off into the night, hearts alight with possibility. Danielle felt a wave of joy rush over her. This dream was not just hers anymore. As she drove home that evening, the moon illuminated the road ahead, a reminder that clarity often comes after the darkness. She had ignited something real, and as she crossed the threshold of her humble home, she knew that this was not just the end of a chapter, but the beginning of a story that would touch countless lives, inspiring them to rise together. One voice at a time, they would create a movement of transformation that was potent and profound. Now more than ever, she believed. So, the call to action flared brightly in Danielle's heart. She knew they could do it together. With newfound determination, she knew she had to keep sharing their story. We all have something to offer, something worth telling. Stand together. Unite. Be the change you want to see. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending because your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation, because together we can create waves of change. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.